Hello, this is J.M. Nightingale. The source of our shared reality is of unbounded complexity, and the best we can do is to construct limited and incomplete models for that shared reality based on educated guesses we make in analyzing our experiences. Here, I'd like to share some of my guesses on topics I believe have some cultural significance. There has been a long and voluminous philosophical debate regarding the soundness of the competing ideas of free will and determinism, with many of the greatest philosophers in history weighing in. I have no desire or energy to rehash that debate through its history or complexity. Instead, I want to provide a different perspective on the issue. First, in the most basic terms, the fatal flaw of simple determinism results from thinking of the situation as if the subject is not part of the universe in which the subject exists. But the subject is part of the universe and an actor in that universe. And as an actor has part of the power and force of the universe and is a source of causality like any other force in the universe. Also, the time of the action this actor engages in the unbroken chain of actions through time, is as important as any other time in the succession of events. If one models the universe as following deterministic processes, any actor must be viewed as both determiner and determined. The action may be depicted as starting with the actor at a particular time, just as it may be depicted as starting with any other part of the universe at any other time. It's all a matter of perspective. Now, about free will. Note that any X, any actor or object, forms and acts in response to all forces acting upon X, both internal to X and external to X. The internal forces in the brain of a sentient being may be described as comprising the will. The term free will is problematic because it implies an independence from forces of the universe, and there can be no such independence. However, it should be noted that the term is often used loosely to refer to freedom from social pressures, and that usage is not directly contradicted by the analysis here, though it is apparent that complete freedom from social pressures becomes virtually impossible if an individual interacts with and becomes dependent on, in any manner, other individuals in a society. As an aside, note that if individual X exerts X's will in changing the mind of individual Y, for example, changing Y's beliefs or understanding, then Y's mind, in part, becomes an agent of X's mind. Then Y's mind may be a function of X's will. If Y acts as a result of X's manipulation of Y, can Y's act then be represented as an expression of freedom? It depends on the time frame from which freedom and will are analyzed. From the time frame starting after the manipulation, Y's will was exercised, and Y's act may be expressed as an act of Y's individual freedom, as Y had incorporated X's influence and it had become part of Y. From the time frame before manipulation, one could say that X's will was expressed in Y's actions, and Y's act was not an act of Y's individual freedom. Over time, the will evolves as the individual encounters new energy that shapes the individual's identity through perception and repercussions of perception. The will also evolves because of biological changes, for example, hormonal changes or the processing of aging, injury, or disease. Now I want to move on to the related concept of identity I just alluded to. First, note that human identity over time is approximate, not absolute, as all living things change over time. Time really is just the measure of change. As a human being grows and has experiences, the human brain changes in response to stimuli from the outside world, both in an immediate sense and over time in response to the analyses of that stimuli, which could be considered a form of internal stimuli. The brain at the present time is a function of what it was at an earlier time and what it experienced between that time and the present. So the identity of the individual at a time in the past is not the same as the identity at the present time. Actually, at any time, the identity is the result of the combination of and interaction of the internal forces at the time, which are in part a function of the external forces that impacted the brain through perceptions in the past, and any analysis that occurred as a result. And of course, as with the will, any biological changes from aging and any disease or injury or other ongoing chemical processes. Anyway, that's my perspective, my 2 cents, to be added to all the other coins, all the other perspectives others have provided over the ages. Goodbye.